Now we're live.
I see.
All right. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Ben.
So we're a world apart right now. It is what time for you?
9:30 in the morning on Friday.
Yeah,
We
7:30
live in the future.
Thursday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
I know every time I talk to Nathan Slake in
Oh, yeah.
Australia, it's the same thing. He's always one step ahead in the world. So
I guess so.
we got some few folks joining, so that's cool. Welcome folks for joining. Hey Shannon. Lydia is on. Yeah, my cousin is on. Cool.
Oh,
All right. I won't
cool.
look at it the whole time.
Hi, guys.
We'll talk. But if you guys have questions as we talk, please just write them in, and we'll try to get to them. But anyway, I'll introduce myself. If you guys don't know me, if you just happen to pop in and let Kate introduce herself. So I'm Ben Wakeman. I am a fiction writer primarily, but I write a lot of stuff. I'm also a musician, but I make my living as a technologist, building software, and that's kind of how I've paid the bills for years. I was excited to chat with Kate because I've admired her work for a long time, both as a writer but also as a teacher. She does a lot of amazing stuff. But I'll let her introduce herself so she can tell you about it.
Sure. Thanks so much, Ben. It's really nice to be here with you. And I mean, Ben and I sort of met on Substack a few years ago, and I've just really enjoyed the writing you do, but also the community work you do. Like being a part of at least one of your projects was really fun. And so yeah, I am a fiction writer as well, but I write a lot of different. I write also like more academic essays, and then I'm kind of experimenting with other kind of essays. But fiction is kind of my passion, I guess. And yeah, right now I'm teaching at an international school in Japan. I've been teaching for over 20 years, so in academia at universities, as well as schools in the States, the UK, and internationally. Yeah, and I am excited to talk about writing today.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Kate and I were talking before we joined about all the things we should talk about, and we decided AI is the thing that we have to talk about, but we're going to time box it. I
Yeah.
promise. We're not going to blow an entire hour talking about the machine, but the machine is in the room for all of
Maybe
us.
another day. Maybe. Let's see.
We can talk about skiing too. We can talk about nature. We can talk about lots of things. But let's start with, I guess, I'd love to know sort of your origin story. When did you first decide, that you were a writer or that you wanted to be
Oh,
a writer?
great. Okay. That's interesting. I just anybody listening, I didn't like prep these responses or anything. So I'm like, Well, I mean, I always loved English and reading, like from a very young age. My mom's a librarian, worked in schools as well as librarian, and I loved my English teachers. But I was writing essays. I loved writing about books. I loved writing this kind of nonfiction stuff. But I never really saw myself as a fiction writer. It seemed like something so abstract and foreign to me for so long. And it wasn't until I was doing my PhD, I guess when I was like around when I turned 30, that's when I started my PhD. And as I went deeper into culture and literature and theory, I really wanted to feel free to explore that in fiction myself. So I kind of boxed out 4 months in the middle of my research to take a break from research and just write fiction. And that's when I wrote my first novel. And yeah, I loved the experience of feeling free to say the story the way I wanted to, and also kind of engage with some of those ideas I had been researching as well. And that's informed a lot of my fiction sense. So I guess that's when I thought I was on a real like academic track, and I realized I like that kind of maybe more, I guess I'll call it more free for me, more free writing. And so I decided after a few years to go back to teaching at international schools where I could publish what I want and not feel that pressure. So um, more recently, I guess a few years, I guess it's now 5 years ago or so, um, when my family, we moved to Switzerland, and I found myself with the opportunity to um, engage with writing almost full time. And so for a little while, I was full time doing fiction, also setting up my Substack, thinking about what this could mean on a bigger level, a different level of connecting with people. So I guess that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I think we probably had our little walkabout around the same time.
Hmm.
I joined Substack like 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
I was laid off from a job, actually, and I was like, "I'm not gonna go back, I don't think, for a while." I just needed
Yeah.
a break. So, it was the first time in, Jesus, I don't know, 35 years that I had not actually been
Yeah.
working, that I, because 'cause I've
Yeah.
always done my creative pursuits, whether it was, um, writing music and recording, performing, or, writing fiction. It was always in the evenings and the weekends,
Yeah.
after work was done and after, you know, feeding the kids, bathing them, getting to bed, all that
Hmm.
stuff. So there was very little in between time to do the work.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was
Well,
crazy to
I mean,
have
if
like
I can add
days.
to that too, I think sometimes it happens by accident. It's really scary to just say, I'm gonna, quit everything or go part-time and not make much money and try this out. And, we had jobs lined up in Kuwait during the pandemic. And so we couldn't get in. And that's when I made the switch as well. So it was by accident that I lost this opportunity. And yeah, I'm really happy that I did.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you can't make a plan for. It's like, yeah, I'm going to free fall financially for a
Yeah.
while. I mean, when you're young, you can do that because, you don't have any
Right.
responsibilities and things to take care of, people to take care of. But
Right.
yeah, but
Cool.
I think that's been a theme for so much of my fiction, but also the essays that I've written too, is just kind of that constant tension between, trying to be an artist and trying to survive, because
Yeah.
I think the thing that people who are not artists don't really get is I had this so much whenever I was playing music and performing out or releasing albums. People would come and they would hear me. They'd be, "Man, you were great. How come you're not famous? Or how come you're not doing this full time?"
Yeah.
And the closest
And
thing
you're
I
like,
could come
well,
to say, I'd be like, go back to high school. Do you remember high school?" And like, yeah. I was like, try to be popular.
yeah, yeah.
It's like
Just
it's
just
one of
do
those
it.
things, yeah, just do it, right? How
Uh,
hard can it be? Um, but
and
yeah.
I think sometimes having it's hard to find the balance, right? Because for me, I think when I was for a short time, I was really full time writing and I guess parenting as well. So I wouldn't say full time. I don't know,
That is a
young child
job.
at home,
Yeah.
sort of stay at home mom at the same time. But it's it's hard to I love solitude, but I found, like, for myself, it was a little bit too much, and so it's trying to find that balance is really tricky. For me, it's not necessarily the dream now I thought it was to just kind of sit at home and write all day. But I think for me, that's just too much. I like and not just socializing, but I like to have kind of the structure of goals at work in some way. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, it's tricky though, because you've got, as a writer, you have to kind of have enough noise in your head to produce something, but then not too much noise that it inhibits you to
Right.
get the work done, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think that, I think if you look to the ratio of writers throughout history who have actually made their living solely from writing and just done that all day long is a very, 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 very small percentage of humans, which
Yeah.
tells you that, it's not necessary. I think that
Mhm.
if you do have to have a life to write about. I think you do have to have a rich life to write about, which requires a
Yeah,
lot of ingredients.
definitely. I always think of, like, William Carlos Williams when I think about that and his day job as a doctor, and I'm like, traveling around to people's homes and obviously
Right.
getting inspiration from that, and I feel like that, he has of course, he's a poet, so he's got shorter works, but they're just brilliant, aren't they? And so he's got volumes and volumes that he's produced through that kind of balance. And I often
Yeah.
see that as my inspiration, I guess.
Yeah. That's it's always good to have perspective. I think we compare ourselves too often, and that's usually the source of most suffering is comparison, right?
Yeah,
It's also
definitely.
the source of most gratitude, I think. So
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
it's a double-edged sword. Um,
I
Well,
like the
I did
title
t
that you gave. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say I like the
we were
title
gonna
you
go to the
gave
same place, yeah.
to our talk, and I was also wondering about if I can flip the tables for a minute,
Yeah.
like just wondering about your fiction as an everyday practice. Like, what does that look like? Because I know you're really busy with work as well, and how do you make time for that?
Yeah, it's it's a challenge. I think one thing I've been really lucky about is I've been able to just kinda drop in and write anywhere, anytime. Like,
Hmm.
those people always talk about they can sleep anywhere,
Yeah.
what a gift, like on a plane in a horrible coach seat, they can just fall asleep. I've been able to do that with writing as long as I have some headphones, if I have, like, a lunch break or, a few hours at the doctor's while I'm waiting for my kid or something,
Hmm.
whatever it is, I can drop in and do that, and that's been a gift. And I've had to adapt it even more lately because and I wrote I think an essay a couple months back about this. Is I sit in front of the computer so much during the day for my job,
Mm.
not just one, but like three computers, right? Three different ones going, in different meetings, and just so staring
Yeah.
at a screen and is exhausting. And I've never been like a longhand writer. I mean, I can do
Hmm.
it, but it's not enjoyable to me. I think I
Hmm.
have some probably undiagnosed dyslexia at some point in my
Mm.
past where it's a struggle. Um, so what I've done more and more is do a morning walk and I like dictate into my phone to get drafts of things.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, and that's been a great thing because getting out in nature is like a huge part for me of just like every day having like 2 hours outside,
Mm.
to kind of cap out the day.
Hmm.
So oftentimes that's what I do. I'll put together a draft of something that I'm working on, and then I can go back and clean it up. And that's sort of the beautiful, forgiving thing about the technology now is, you
Mm.
can you can dictate the sloppiest thing into Google Docs, using your
Yeah,
voice, and then go back and in seconds completely clean up the editing of it, fix
that's
misspellings
great.
and capitalizations and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of been at a technical level. I really didn't answer it probably at more of
Mm. Now I think,
a deeper level, but yeah, we can get into the internals of it. But what about you?
yeah.
How do
Yeah,
you
I mean,
write every day?
that's interesting. I think, that thing about the screen is so important, like, as a writer because I think that inhibits me as well. I don't have 3 screens in front of me, but as a teacher, I more and more of my work is online, even, like, looking at student papers, a lot of that is online now, and it just I have this feeling like I just want to step away and go analog, and so what I've started to do is, I mean, like you, I really like to write early in the morning, so, um, especially after my son was born. I mean, he's 7 now, so a while ago, I started waking up earlier to just try to even get a little bit of writing done before he was up, and this is more when I was, like, staying at home with him. But even now, I find that really useful, and that kind of I know a lot of writers write early, some talk about, like, getting up at 3, 4 in the morning. I don't go quite that extreme, but, like, 5 o'clock, and, things just feel really quiet and peaceful outside, and sometimes I do that kind of walk outside, like you said, or I start with a little bit of yoga at home or something, but I need to move around, and then I always start in a notebook, but I find it limiting as well, so I find it, like, a good place to get started with some ideas or kind of sketch out something I've been thinking about, some language, and then, I just find, like, I wanna type as fast as I'm thinking, and so
Mhm.
the page is gonna inhibit me after a while. But I find that just starting that way kind of sets me up for a better writing session, and
Yeah,
when I'm in, like, this kind of busy session of work and family and everything, I think that, even if I just do a little bit every day, that's all I really need, and if it
yeah,
turns out that I've got a few hours, then maybe I have a much longer session. But I am really interested in, not that I don't want to jump into the AI thing right away, but I have been thinking more about, because I've done this with some student work, how good like OCRs and also moving handwritten work to text, like you said, from speech to text. And I've used that with students
mhm,
before really well, especially with students with dysgraphia, dyslexia. But, if I'm on a train and I just feel like writing my journal for hours, that's great if it's just for me. But if I want to start to share it with people and shape it into something, it's very time intensive to type that all up. And that can be a great part of the editing process. But, you
Yeah.
can also now, of course, just easily transfer it to text that you can edit. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, I mean, that really fits into like the way that writing is part of my day because for me, I want to have like this notebook that is with me in the morning or comes with me on the train or is out at a park when I happen to have, like you say, a few moments to just get something down that inspires me.
Mm.
And I find that I lose a lot of that stuff. Maybe it's still in my head, but it's hard to hold on to if it's in the notebook. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. I think we live in a digital world and everything we do
Hmm.
is digital these days. I mean, it's the fastest way to communicate anything. So
Yeah.
I think it is an interesting thing to play with when you go analog completely, whether you're talking or whether you're writing it down. I think it does wire your brain a little differently. Maybe
I
it's a
think
slower
so.
way to. What I can't imagine is people that and there are people that still do it that use typewriters. That just
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
like the worst of both worlds to me. It's like it's a mechanical interface that you have to and
Yeah.
then you got a freaking backspace. It's like yeah, just
It's too much for
it sounds
me.
like a yeah, sounds
I
like a hipster thing
Yeah, 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 yeah,
to
yeah.
do.
All the power to people who want to do that. I think that's great. But
Right.
yeah, for me that's too much.
Yeah. So, I guess going a layer deeper, talking about sort of daily writing practice beyond
Mhm.
the kind of mechanics of when and how we do it. What what do you find yourself? What's your entry point into most of the fiction that you write? Do you have is it always
Nice.
changing based on what you do, or is it is are you commonly inspired by a person, like a person that you've
Mhm.
met, or an
Mhm.
archetype that you want to explore, or is it a setting, or what to you is the most sort of comfortable place to begin?
Mhm. Yeah. Great question. And I think this is the way that writing for me is not just, and I think for a lot of writers, it's not just that time in front of my notebook or my computer. It's kind of the way I'm filtering the world around me, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So, I guess place is especially, and setting more generally is very important in my work, and it really inspires me. And I mean, I think part of that is because I've lived in these different countries and I kind of experienced this sort of daily dissonance, whether it's
Yeah.
through language and culture or the actual landscape itself. And so I
Yeah.
find, like, in those tensions, I often find inspiration, I think sometimes it allows me to see something that I've already experienced or felt, but then I see it in a different way. And so it makes me more aware and want to write about it a certain way. So I think just kind of in everyday life in that way. It doesn't have to be like, a great monument or something, but just
Mm.
kind of, um, the way the color of the water looks somewhere else, or the way that people drink their coffee in a different city, something like that,
Yeah.
small, that makes its way into the writing. And so I kind of have that level of these kind of everyday lived experience that inform it. And then I think also, like I mentioned briefly before, it's a lot of the reading and research that I do. Not that I'm always consciously trying to get something into the fiction, but I think that um, even sort of maybe the ontological approach that an author has inspires me to look at that approach in my own work. So, like, we're
Yeah.
looking at with my students, we're reading The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Kundera. Again, I really like teaching that book, but I haven't taught it in a while. And I mean, he's constantly dealing with philosophical ideas there, and it
Right.
inspires me not to write like him, but to um, but to maybe investigate on that deeper level, take a risk to really make my own philosophy in my fiction, if that makes sense. Because I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking back on the work of yours that I've read, and I do think place almost takes such a central role, almost a character in and of itself, like the Hong Kong story,
Hmm.
Interpreter in Vienna, and also this recent short story series that you did, like in three parts, the Konbini and the Happy Tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
inspired from Fukuoka, Japan, where I live now, so Yeah. Sometimes I forget to put a story in there, and then I have to add it later. So it's more like the place, like you say, is almost the character in a way.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, that's so cool.
what about you? What would you say inspires you the most?
Um, I think almost without a doubt, it is always something very grounded
Mhm.
in a human experience, in a character, a particular conflict, and I'll pull on that thread a little bit. And I don't ever outline the books that I've written. I mean,
Yeah.
I usually the best way that I can think about my process would be to if you like had a handful of dice and you threw them out, and you come up with a combination of like five different things, five
Mhm.
different elements, right? Let's see. If I look at the Memory of My Shadow book that I released 2 years ago, I had written it further back, but I finally released it, published it in print 2 years ago. But that one was like it was before AI actually became a thing.
Mhm.
Um, it was because I was in technology, I was pretty close to it, and I had already written a lot of automation and stuff like that. But it was nothing as sexy as talking to a chatbot. And then,
Right.
in 22, when that hit, and everyone was like, "Whoa, this is crazy," and it's still happening. But I was fascinated by, well, what could it do? And so many
Mhm.
great science fiction writers had explored that territory, but I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to sort of make it a humanistic story. Um, so I wanted the technology to be in there, but I wanted to write from a female protagonist first person
Yeah.
because I felt like that's really important to me. I think gender plays a lot into my life, especially these days. I've got two trans children
Mhm.
actually, um, and I growing up, I'd never thought too much about gender as anything like but a binary. But
Mhm.
the older I've gotten, the more I realize it is like most things, like this continuum, the spectrum. Very few things in nature are black and white. Even if you
Yeah.
look at something that is black and white, if you zoom in close enough, you'll see there's a gradient where the two touch.
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to play with that sort of protagonist first person. I wanted it to be set in nature.
Mhm.
And the last piece of it was, you know, this was right around sort of school shootings are still everyday life in America, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was right after the Parkland shootings, and I think I was just completely devastated by how everything went back to normal a couple of days later.
Yeah.
Because I remember
Right.
when Columbine
People are
happened, and it was
desensitized. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's just like, oh, it's just a thing that happens, and we just accept it. So those are all these weird ingredients that I put into
Right.
one
Right.
story, and that was the challenge. Is kind of like, how do you make a narrative thread that connects those dots? And
Mhm.
to me,
Mhm.
it's always the character. It's the person's
Mhm.
experience that threads the needle for those.
Mm. And I love that. I mean, I think it's really important to write from different perspectives. I think it gives us empathy and helps us to understand. Some people critique it as like you don't know that person's experience, but I feel like part of the job of the writer is to imagine and to research those experiences
Right.
and to listen. And you've done like a series of character sketches, which I found really interesting. So I can see, I'm not surprised that you said that about the
Yeah.
kind of the character, the human coming first, because you've done these really nice sketches in that way. But I think I can relate, and even though maybe we have different starting points, I also I lack the plot at first, and I see my work maybe more like a really messy underpainting to start, and then like it starts to take shape, and then I make an outline, and the last book that I published, which was sort of a spy thriller, sort of not,
Yeah.
I had to I kind of I did it to see if I could make a really structured plot, and so it still started really messy, but it was also an interesting practice to, add that level to it. And like you said, looking for the connections and kind of putting everything into that puzzle, I think is part of the joy of writing as well, which is something very different from that everyday just noticing, like we were talking about before. So there's
Yeah.
so many different
Yeah.
steps to the process of completing, a novel, especially that I like all the parts, but I have to have a certain headspace for like
Yeah.
different steps.
It
Yeah.
it it is such a weird contrivance, the novel, when you really think about it. You know, if you're a reader and you've read for a long time in your life, you just kind of go into this zone when you pick up a book.
Mhm.
There's a trust fall that you kinda do,
Mhm.
which I think is why it's so hard to find readers because it is a
Yeah.
commitment, you know?
Yeah.
You hand someone a novel and it's like, if you're a slow reader, that could take, 3 or 4 weeks, a month to
Yeah.
actually get through. Um,
Yeah.
but it's this interesting absorption that you do when you go into that world, and you know, I think about that all the time when I'm writing of, like, what takes me out of a story when I'm reading it? When
Yeah.
I'm reading a book, it could be a really fantastic writer, but there'll be some things that just kinda clang for me that are just an annoyance or irritating. So, this probably comes from, just performing for so many years on stage. You kinda develop this anxiety or this hyper sixth sense of, like,
Mhm.
are people engaged? Because when you're on a
Mm.
stage, you can
Mhm.
feel it right away. The energy is, like, just gone, when you lose someone in the middle of a
Right.
song even, right?
Right, right.
So I think about that a lot. I think you have a responsibility as a writer to keep this forward propulsion of a story, but you also have this tension of, like, I have to say something that I wanna say, which
Mhm.
is you have to get you have to be careful about when you stick that stuff in there, right? Because that's you just imposing
Right.
yourself into a story, and that feels terrible if it's noticeable. Um, but you also wanna create these sort of just moments of pure delight, That to me,
Yeah.
that's what I love is when I've
Yeah.
set myself up for the next week, and I'm like, "I know I'm gonna get to write about this now."
Mhm. Mhm.
That's why I could never understand people that write from an outline when they, like, know everything, and it's gonna be like, "Okay, this is the long exposition part that I'm gonna have to go." I'd rather not
Yeah.
know that's coming. I'd rather stumble on that and go, "Oh, I've gotta go fix that."
Completely agree. I mean, maybe for some people having that structure first gives them the freedom as they're writing, I don't know.
Yeah,
But I guess I
yeah.
read a lot of books that I'm not really looking for the plot narrative as well. I mean, it can still be important. It can still give a strong message and tell the story, but
Mhm.
um maybe the kind of writer you are also mimics the kind of reading that you like to do. I mean, it must to some extent. Um,
Yeah.
and a couple of things I'm reading now. Actually, I put them over here so you can just see them. The I just read this Anne Michael's Held, which was recommended by Kate Jones on Substack, which I loved. She's a poet, a Canadian poet. I didn't know her work. I mean, she's quite famous, but I didn't know her work before. And I mean, this is a novel. Mostly, it kind of jumps around time shifts, but World War
Mm.
One, etc. There's a photographer protagonist, but a lot of it just kind of reads like this poetic prose. And I had to, at the end, I kind of said, well, wait, what happened? I don't know. And I kind of went back to find out. But as I was reading it, I wasn't really concerned with what was happening at all, which is
Sure,
weird. And
yeah.
then, yeah, and then this one, I don't know if you've heard of the calculation of volume. This is the third. I think there are 12 parts, and they're being translated into English. So,
Okay.
Slavejbal first uh, published it independently or self-published it, and now it's kind of become global. So anyway, it's this the protagonist wakes up every day on November 18th again and again and again
Mhm.
for the whole 12 books. And like each book takes a different flavor, but it's, clearly the plot is not progressing very far. Every day is the same. And so I find it really
Right.
meditative to read that kind of work.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of what I'm trying to do in my writing, but I don't know, how successful it is. So
Let's don't talk about success, shall we?
yeah. Okay, sure.
I'm just kidding. So, Kate, how many books have you sold? Let's get into
Oh,
let's
no,
crunch
no,
the
no, no,
numbers.
no. No, I was just submitting my taxes, so let's not look at how much I'm making off my books, please.
Well, because we have some folks on the call, let's list your books out so people know what they're your first novel was not Hong Kong Story, it was something before that, right?
Yeah. Oh, actually, so I brought them as well. So I have
Oh, good for you.
The White Knight. So this one, this was 2014 when I published it, and I published it on Amazon. And I somewhere in my moves and new computers, I lost the file, and I've wanted to republish this on Lulu, which is where I've been publishing, and also make some updates to it. Partly because this takes place in Paris. There's a woman with a brain tumor. You find out right at the beginning of the first page. And it's kind of how she learns to embrace that and live her life. And I'm working on something now that's a novella that's it's not a sequel to it, but it kind of works with
Mm.
it, which is why I thought about republishing it. And so I'm in the process of scanning the pages and shifting them to text and then doing some editing with that. So it's not available
Right.
right now, but it will be. And then but it took me a little bit longer because I had to finish the PhD. And then this came out a few years ago, Hong Kong Story. A lot of it draws on my time. I've spent 8 years in Hong Kong. It's such like a magical city. A lot of what I was doing my research on while I was there was about Hong Kong culture and politics and identity and related to place as well. And so I tried to kind of like subtly pull those threads into the story. And then so I published this one partly on Substack, but not in full. Just became too long to publish
Yeah.
the whole thing on Substack for me. And then this is the Vienna spy thriller, which is partly a response to um, Graham Greene's work that he did on Vienna, and he worked on several films that took place there as well. So anyway, those I've published on Lulu independently. That one was also on Substack, and that's the one that I know you're aware. But for other listeners, that I had a podcast that accompanied, so I was able to kind of talk about those layers that I try to bring into my fiction, which was fun to do. So yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to listen to. I really got a lot out of being able to listen to your podcast because you always have so much to share. You're so well read. I always feel like a complete sloth when I
Oh
hear
no,
about the
but those
sheer
are the
number of
topics I
books that you've
chose.
read.
I'm sure your topics, you would have a lot to share. So you see,
Yeah.
yeah. It was fun though. It's fun. Maybe a podcast is. I don't have time for it right now, but maybe I'll go back to it. I like it. I mean, I really love the audio work you do with your books. Obviously, it comes from your musical background as well, um, and it adds
Yeah, that
such a
was
nice richness.
it was kind of a fun fit to find because I just I've performed less and less. It's just it's
Hmm.
such a it's so much effort to book a gig, promote a gig, practice a band, get out and do it's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Whereas I get the same high from writing, and then but there's no performance aspect of writing, right? So
Hmm.
this doing the narration for my novels and doing the serializing thing, it's kind of a cool sort of best of all possible worlds for me
Yeah. Yeah.
because part of the process that I write the book, or most of it, I don't completely finish these books before I start serializing them because I'm a little
Hmm.
insane. Um, but I think that makes so many people like Eleanor Anstruther cringe. She's like, "What? What are
It
you
makes them
doing?"
cringe that you haven't finished it. You mean?
Right, that I
Yeah.
would
Yeah. Yeah.
start
Yeah.
putting it out into the world before I know how it's gonna end.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm impressed because the others I had completely finished, and I started to serialize something last August. And then because of the wonderful feedback I had, I wanted to change directions. So I had to say, pause. I'll come back to you guys in like a year with this. But so I'm very impressed that you
Yeah.
can do this, Ben.
Well, no, it just became a thing out of necessity. I started doing I published, The Memory of My Shadow as a serial, and it was already wrapped and done, so it was just I learned the production thing of, "Okay, I'll record
Mhm.
the narration for it," and then I said, "Oh, it'd be really cool to put an original music score to it." So I
Mhm.
wrote a little
Mhm.
music score for it as kind of a way to enter into the narration every week, and that just kinda became a thing, and so, after that, I did, Harmony House, which was another book,
Mhm.
uh, then Departures, and now I'm doing Daedalia. So, and it's the thing I love about the process is it forces me to edit in a way that I wouldn't edit normally.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I don't see the same mistakes when I'm reading it that I do when I'm sitting in front of a microphone with headphones on and I'm narrating it and doing the dialogue.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
a lot of the best changes I've made about character and dialogue happen like with the laptop in the room in the bathroom where I record that has blankets all around me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been
Yeah,
there.
because 'cause I'm like yeah, because I try my best to do, to add some voices to it as well, because I've always enjoyed that one. If you listen to audiobooks, when you hear a really great actor
Mm,
narrate something, they don't go crazy. The voices aren't, like,
mhm.
completely, uh, cartoonish, but you can hear a distinct difference, whether it's an accent or whether it's a pitch change or
Yep.
something. It's such a more natural way to listen, um, and I think it was also just a practical utility. I know that I am not a big time well-known writer, so getting people to sit down and read my work is hard enough anyway,
Mhm. Mhm.
but giving people the option to listen, I think I've gained so many readers because they know that every Monday or Tuesday, they can open up Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and
Mhm.
they can get a new chapter while they're commuting to work or whether they're exercising or making breakfast for the kids or whatever their daily routine is. It kinda becomes part of their life, and I love that. That's kind of like an interior thing. It's gets back to the whole thing of connection you and I were talking about, which
That's
is
great.
why do you do this thing?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's, like we were talking about screen time, everyone's got so much of it now that it also just allows you to get away from that. It makes it more personal. It's something, that you do so well, and so adding that layer to it is a really nice touch. I mean, you're so prolific. You like you've written a lot. How many serializations have you done on Substack? Is it 4 now?
This is 4 I'm working on now. I've
Yeah.
written 6 novels, but this is 4 that will I can't believe that I'm actually already on the 4th one
I know it's a
serializing it.
lot. I was when this one started, I said, "Wow, he's got another one again." I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think it's part of me just a kick in the ass to keep me going because it
Yeah.
makes an accountability level of, like,
Yeah.
'cause I put off this one for a while. I know I started
Mhm.
promising it, like, last summer, and then I was like, "Not ready yet." Because once you start every week, like, we're
Yeah.
gonna be taking a trip to South Africa in a couple of weeks, which
Oh,
is I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks, so I
cool.
have to, like, build a backlog of the recordings to have them ready to go,
Right.
so
Right, right. That sounds like a good trip. Nice.
yeah, yeah, first time our little
I've
7
never
one is
been.
super excited. Yeah,
Mm,
me either, so
great. I'm sure you'll meet some people along the way that you can sketch into your either your fiction or your character sketches. That would be great. Um,
absolutely, yeah,
but I found too that, there's this when you do, yeah, start something online on Substack in that way, there is that kind of accountability, which is great. But I think also what I've discovered through like a year and a half of very busy time at work is that people are also quite patient. Like there are a lot of readers out there in the community that I always think, oh my God, like I'm letting people down or I'm not doing this in time or when I abandon that work to bring it later. And, I think people kind of enjoy that's the human aspect of it as well. Like we're not just these machines pumping stuff out. And in your case, it's not complete. It's nice that it's like a living, breathing project. It's happening
right,
as produce it. And, people understand like they're busy as well. So they might not have time to keep up with things as quickly too. So if you kind of
yeah,
fall behind, it's not the end of the world. And some, readers or writers or people who are reader writers, um, online, they sometimes step out for a few months, and when they come back, um, they're still, like, welcomed back very nicely. So, I
yeah,
know that, people complain a lot about the community on Substack at times, like or the
right,
algorithm or whatever, but I don't know, I found that it is really supportive. Maybe it's just looking for the right people and trying to develop that, but I've found
yeah,
that, encouraging. Uh,
absolutely. I mean, you find your people, and I think
yeah.
that is the core group of people that I met in my first year on Substack are still really good friends, and,
Mhm.
I was introduced to every one of them through one of them, right? That's the kind of way that it works.
Yeah. I see
And
some hearts going on our video now. That's nice.
yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
it
No, it's
is.
not. I
It
mean,
is.
there's a couple of people I like Zoom with or catch up, and sometimes it's about writing, and then they've also become friends outside of that. I've met up with a few people in real life. Like it's really nice. Um,
Yeah, it is. I think that the community aspect is something that has always been important to me. You mentioned
mhm,
that the project that I did that you wrote a piece for, um,
mhm,
different or same walk, different shoes,
mhm,
and I really I want to do something like that again. It's just a function of time because it's a
mhm,
lot to orchestrate. But I see other people doing projects like that, and it's always super encouraging. I know Jay Curtis joined earlier; he had done the
mhm.
Midnight Vault thing,
Yeah,
and it was
that
a
was great.
massive undertaking. It was like 70 plus short stories,
Yeah,
got included in that collection. And that's
incredible.
great. That's just great because you have all those people reading each other's work and supporting each
Hmm.
other, and that's the juice that keeps it going. Um,
Hmm. And it's nice that it's an artistic project that functions cohesively like that. It's not just, sometimes you just have kind of publishing a bunch of things together, and that is also useful and a nice thing for readers. But when you have like a common thread where it's like a shared vision and you're exploring an idea together, I feel like it just lifts that artistic element so much more. And in the case of the project that you did that you mentioned, the fact that we each wrote prompts and then sent them to other writers anonymously, and they turned that into a piece of fiction. Like it was much more than just putting a bunch of stories together. It was a really integrated project, and I really loved working
yeah,
on that. Yeah.
yeah. I may try to do another a round three of it at some point because I did think it was rewarding. I think a lot of people
Mm,
got something out of it. Um, so
all in good
that
time.
was
We'd
cool.
love it when you do it, but no pressure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, what are you excited about right now? Are you writing a new project?
So yeah, so things have, I guess, we moved to Japan in August, and I've been quite busy in terms of time, like settling into a new job and a new place and everything, but also just I think my head has had a lot of inspiration, but also it's just a bit busy right now. So I've been doing a lot of writing, but I haven't been able to. I really would like to go back to this novel that I started publishing online, The Man from Brooklyn, which actually takes place in Maine. So it's this kind of young academic who goes to Maine. I went to school in Maine, so it kind of draws on my experience with the place, drawing on Thoreau and his work in the Maine woods, and looking at like a nature city dichotomy as well. A lot of these things, but I'd love to go back to that. I have some ideas about how I want to change it, but I just need a bit more than time and headspace, I think, too, because I could kind of like
Yeah,
start doing it every morning, but I'm kind of working
right.
on different things right now. So I think that's the next kind of big project that's still in the works. I keep kind of going back and dabbling with it, but I just need to print it out and like be like, what is happening, and make a vision for this. So that's a project. It might be part of a triptych of novellas instead of a novel on its
Hmm.
own. I have this idea that kind of links. I've got early stage drafting for another novella that takes place in Paris, which is the one that kind of draws on that Parisian novel I wrote before, which I mentioned, and then something about London and the London layers, which I won't get into too much because it's very rough right now. So I think that'll be the next big fiction project. I have a kind of a YA idea in my head. I've never written YA fiction, but I am as a teacher. I've taught a range of students from postgrad and university down to like 11-year-old grade 6 or year 7, depending where you're based. And I love the idea of writing something for that age level, especially as my son gets older. Um, I don't know. I'm really interested in writing to young people as adults as well, not like babifying
Yeah,
them and giving them something interesting. I know Meg Olders on Substack does a lot of great stuff for young
yeah. She
people.
does.
So she's
She
inspirational
does.
there. But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. So the writing is like a little bit choppy right now, but I'm okay with that. And then I'm working toward a probably part of the reason I feel busy. I'm working toward a new project. So the Matterhorn, the subject that I write, it's kind of evolved from different kinds of essays into really focusing on fiction this last year and a half or so, I guess. And I want to keep it that way, where I'm not only publishing fiction, but about being a fiction writer, and make it more of a, I don't know, maybe kind of like an intimate newsletter in that way that's based
Right.
in fiction. And then I'm planning another newsletter that I also would like to become workshops, both online and in person eventually, that deal with art, literature, culture, place, and but make it more of a lived experience. So that's
Yeah.
something that is taking a lot of my creative time, and I'm enjoying what's happening with it. There's a lot of seeds that are not quite there yet, but I'm
So
excited to
that's
share.
it.
Probably in
Just
a couple
those.
months, I'll launch it, I think. What's that? Sorry.
That's it. Just those 15 projects. That's all you're doing.
Oh, just 15 projects, yeah. I'm always like, "Oh, it's okay because 'cause I've got a couple senior classes, and when they start doing the exams, I'll have loads of time." But yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, when
That's
you say
great.
it out loud, it sounds like a lot. But I mean, come on, look at what you've got a lot going on as well. I think I have to. It kind of it sounds like a lot, but it's that stuff is like my outlet. It relaxes me. Even something
Sure.
that's like a
Yeah.
new newsletter. It's the creative work because I enjoy it. It's the time that could be watching TV. I like to watch television as well, but it could be that.
No, I
But
know.
yeah,
I can't sit still either. I get it for sure.
yeah,
I'm always filling whatever available space I have with the project. That's just sort of the way that I am. It's exhausting, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's good.
very
Um,
cool.
but do you want to enlighten us about this AI project you were working on recently?
Oh, sure, sure. If we
I
have
feel
to
like
go
it's a
there,
good
well,
segue from
it's a good
that.
segue. So I programmed for many years. I taught myself programming because I had a small baby at the time and I had to figure out how to make a living from being a musician. So I got into technology and I've been doing it 30 years, but it's always been a day job.
Mhm,
And then I stopped actively coding 10 years ago, something like that, when I started managing people and, consulting and doing bigger projects. You just don't kind of do ass in the chair work like that anymore. Um,
yeah.
and then like 5 months ago, I guess, when the whole quote unquote vibe coding, which just makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit, the term vibe coding sounds so douchey.
Okay. I don't know how to code at all, so I'm just gonna say I'm
Yeah. Uh, it's basically using English as a programming language. That's really all it is.
okay,
That's
okay.
right. So
Huh.
you're just talking to Claude Code or one of the other Cursor, one of the
Mhm,
other ones, and building applications. I've built software for my whole life, so I know how it's built. I know the ins and outs of all of it. So it's kind of like having this crazy superpower all of a sudden. The
mhm.
ability to explore projects that I would never bite off because it's just like there's no way I'll have time to do that.
Right.
So the new project I'm super excited about is I'm writing a novelist assistant app, um, purely just to see if I could do it because I've always been curious about AI, and if you've used any of the LLMs, whether it's Gemini
Mhm,
or ChatGPT or any of those, you can drop a story into there, and you can have it do whatever you want. It can
mhm,
sycophantically praise you forever. It can tear holes in it. You know, uh, but one thing that it can't do is for long form fiction, like 100,000 word novel, it can't hold all of it really in context and give you 100% factual information about it.
mhm,
Um, and as you know from writing a novel, you've got a huge manuscript. When you're going back and editing, you're trying to figure out what was the color of Jeremy's eyes because I need to
yep.
write that here. What was her
I'm
middle
always making those
name?
mistakes, yeah.
Yeah, did this event
Yeah.
happen before this event? So I made a tool. I made a tool that I can chat with about a book. I can upload my manuscript and I can go in and I can ask all those details about. And I'm purposely building it so that it's not a writer. In
Mhm,
no way are
mhm,
you going to be able to use AI to write in this scenario. It is purely doing what it's best at. It's a rapid
mm,
research tool that you can converse with. So you can be like, you know, tell me about the story arc that I have for um, Kelly in this book. And it will kind
Mhm.
of give you beats. And all this is me having to talk. It's not like it doesn't just do it by itself. That's the thing. I'm having to program it to actually think like a writer and go, okay, well, how do you decompose a chapter into the inciting event? And what are the, what's the propelling event that happens? Who are the primary characters? What is the emotional arc? And so
Yeah.
you feed it all that information, and hopefully, I can give it to someone like you. You can upload your novel into it, and after talking with it for an hour, you can have this companion to like talk about your book with in a really intelligent way. And that's kind of what I've been playing with. So
That's cool. I mean, it sounds great. I'm sure Substack will have an opinion about it, like many different views, which is great,
yeah,
something to talk about. But I mean, I would love to test it. I think some of the practical things you mentioned would be really useful. And then also, when you're writing a novel, it's like it takes a lot of time and there's so much in your head that sometimes I can't remember what I've actually written and what's in my head or how much I've used of it and how, and I think at one point I might write it in a notebook and then where's that notebook? Oh, I'm going to come back to this and add this. And then, sure you can I'm always doing like keyword searches on Scrivener and like finding, oh, where did this character appear first? And right. And this
right.
would make it a lot easier, but also, that doesn't give me the full picture. So I do think it would be quite useful, as a tool. I
Yeah,
like that you're thinking really carefully about, how it wouldn't do the writing, and like you said, like that's the joy of it is the writing, and
right.
it would just take away the human element that you're always talking about. I find it so interesting that you're someone who engages with technology and AI so deeply, and yet you are this artist who is primarily concerned with humanity and
Yeah,
all of these, like, especially these kind of exit interviews or people who are leaving AI, but also people who are still in it. You hear them talking about how the humanities they predict is going to have this big surge. And I feel like it
yeah.
kind of has to do with the way that you talk about using technology.
I think it's true. I think we're at this crazy inflection point with the
Mhm.
technology. Um, you know, there's a lot of evils with any new technology. Certainly, the
Yeah.
climate impacts and those things are real. The job loss thing is real, and we're going to have to deal with that. It's affecting my industry more than any other one right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many of the young designers and engineers on my team, I talk to them all the time. I'm like, you need to generalize, you need to diversify, because there was
Hmm.
a time when it was like, be really specifically good at this thing. Just be an iOS programmer, and you'll make good money, and it'll be job
Right.
security. And that's gone. It's
It's
just
gone.
gone
Yeah.
now.
It's gone.
And it's going to be the same way for most folks that have a very specific, narrow kind of a job. Um,
Hmm.
and it's sad. So that's sort of the downside of it. To me, the upside of it is we've created this amazing machine that has everything in humanity captured in it, at least everything that's
Hmm.
digital.
Hmm.
And it's like it's not conscious. I mean, there's no consciousness there, but there's this interesting
Hmm.
idea of it is an idea machine. It's a massive reflection pool.
Hmm.
It to me, it doesn't write awesome. It's very derivative, right? But it
Right.
can write. It can write
Hmm.
in a way that you can understand it. And
Hmm.
I heard an interview with a designer that works at Anthropic, and she was talking about that everyone thought for a long time that chat interfaces would just be a temporary way station for the technology.
Hmm.
That eventually we'd move on to something else, and they've persisted. And they're like, well, why do they persist? It's kind of an ugly interface just to have it back and forth, and it's
Yeah.
because it's because talking is the universal interface.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can talk to someone who has an IQ of a 7-year-old. You can talk to someone who is an astrophysicist in the same way that we do. It's very
Mhm.
relatable.
Mhm.
So again, that's why I'm
Hmm.
fascinated not by replacing art at all. I think that's the thing that we do that's amazing. But if you can remove the drudgery any kind of a job and elevate
Yeah.
someone up to they can have that ability to think about bigger ideas,
Right.
How they'll get paid to do that is a whole other thing I can't figure out, but
Right. Right. But that's, I mean, if you, I guess that's the thing. If you can kind of offload the menial stuff that takes a lot of time, and you have more time and energy for that creativity in anything, then that's really useful. And that's where I've been trying, it's AI is huge in education now. And I think, again,
yeah,
sometimes I think it's not being used, I would say, correctly, because sometimes it's kind of taking the place of, not so much with students. I think like schools and parents and teachers are quite careful with, at least in secondary education, this is like
right,
looking at, you know, keeping students from relying on AI. And, some teachers are very good at trying to develop that intrinsic value of writing, and and also just making it practical that they have to do it in the classroom. So they learn how to do it. But I think it's
right,
more, I see teachers just, kind of, I've asked some unnamed people to send me like units they're working on, like as a school leader. And it's just something dumped from ChatGPT. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, like that's fine. But are you
right,
engaging with the ideas yourself? Are you, part of teaching is understanding, not just dumping something. You might as well teach out of a textbook then. Like, I don't
yeah,
understand the point. And then I also see it with, like grading papers is
yeah,
so boring sometimes. But it also gives you a lot, like by reading what a student has written to you, whether it's an exam or a creative piece or
right,
whatever, it it helps you to understand the way they're thinking. And if you just kind of dump that into a system and say, like, give me a mark on this, how can they improve?
right,
It's defeating the purpose. But at the same time, it can do a lot of, the stuff that over the last like 20 years, has been adding to teachers' work pile. Some of that is now being taken away. And so that's
yeah,
wonderful. So I think we're just like at that stage, as you've articulated, where we're trying to find that balance and what it means, within jobs, and also what jobs are available. Um,
yeah. It's like, what do you choose to speed run through in your life, and what is still worth a slow walk? Because I
yeah,
think that's the conundrum. Because you can get to a
yeah,
point where you could just delegate the whole thing, and
right.
then where are you? And I guess that's what I worry about is people with a lot more important jobs than you or I, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
and big
Yep.
companies and big governments that outsource their entire thinking to an AI model. It's one
Right.
thing to like bounce novel ideas off of it. It's a whole other thing to talk about, a defense strategy
Yeah. Yeah.
or other crazy stuff. So
Right. And maybe you can help to generate ideas from it. But yeah, it's
yeah.
it's a tricky and dangerous place. I know you wrote a recent essay. It was a short essay, but provocative essay about AI recently, which I enjoyed very much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm constantly sort of uh amazed and disgusted by it at the same time.
yeah.
The way I look at it is I have to stay relevant at least a few more years to keep earning a living. So I have to kind of like, and also I feel like I have enough of a foot in the world of people in the humanities and the arts that
Mhm.
I can be an early warning sign for
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everyone to like know what's coming.
True.
But
It's
uh,
yeah. It's just it's so big now. I sometimes think like, what if there was this alternative AI model that was, trained only from, um, artists and great thinkers, but then of course that's kind of censoring knowledge and information in a way. So it's almost impossible to do, and it's a bit arbitrary. But you wonder, what's being pumped out as good, where is it coming from? And
right,
like you say, it's a mirror, so we always have to be really discerning of what it tells us. But
yeah.
we haven't been
Humans,
losing viewers as we talk about AI. That's good.
I think, as humans, we have to get better at. We're gonna have to just become superior at like judgment and
Mhm.
taste and discernment.
Yeah.
Because it is everything can happen so fast, and it looks on the surface really good, you know? A
Hmm.
lot of the things look really good initially until you
Yeah.
think about them a little bit.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's that's the fun stuff when you do. I mean, sometimes it can be hard and not fun to think about something deeply if it's not a, if it's a really depressing topic, say. But it's when you're engaging with things critically, I think you feel alive. And this is why I love teaching high school, because you can still they're not, nobody at that age is totally set in their ways yet, right? And hopefully
Yeah, they're
people
still
never are,
not
but I
formed.
I think people like can turn off as they get older. If and you can kind of show them, like, look, if you think about things critically, if you work hard, it's more interesting. If you use your brain more, it's more interesting to do it. And it doesn't matter kind of what level the student's working at. I really believe that anybody can engage in that way. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's why I really like teaching that age group, I guess. I'm not sure if that makes
yeah.
sense, but
No, it makes a lot of sense.
they're
It's
very critical
wonderful.
of AI. It's so interesting. You talk to 17-year-olds and they're like,
Oh, I
"Oh my
know.
god,
Uh,
it's the devil."
Both of my grown kids, same way. They're like,
No.
it is the devil. So it'll be an interesting thing because they're going to be the workforce.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
I guess.
see.
Evolving. Watch this space, right?
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so probably should. Yeah, you got to get on with your day, and I have to go to bed soon. It's like it's going to be almost my bedtime.
Oh
It's already
gosh.
8:30.
You gotta get up there early and do all that stuff you do. So cool.
Yeah,
This has been so
yeah.
fun
But
though. Thank you so
it
much for
has
having
been
me.
fun,
Yeah.
and thanks for everyone for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please go check out Kate's books. She has a lot of wonderful books that she showed earlier. We're going to post a video. I've got a few books out there. You can subscribe to both of us if you want to catch us every week. We always send out stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Kate. All right. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.